Over the last 8 episodes on the Just Create SMP, I started my mega base, building a huge underground structure that will soon not only have a massive power station and a huge cobblestone generator inside, but it will also be home to a massive storage system and workshop. During that time, I also built a very efficient iron farm that's been running in the background, generating me an absolute ton of iron, as well as a very powerful guardian farm, which is also home to a gigantic tree farm that generates far too much guardian stuff and a whole bunch of wood. It's quite impressive, really. And in the very last video, I set up a system to transport all of that wood via my boat over to my new base area, where there are some vaults that are just going to be storing it temporarily until we can move it into the big old storage area that I haven't built yet. And that's when everything went wrong. You see, I've spent so much time AFK over here at the Prismarine and Guardian farm that the storage downstairs filled up. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of items of tree block stuff and Prismarine stuff that I'd been saving up down at the Guardian farmy tree farmy bit, ready to transport over to my base. And as you can see, this is all currently turned off, but let's not worry about that. What we should worry about is that I lost everything. I'm talking I lost every single log and leaf and strip log, all of the bone meal, all of the prismarine blocks, all of my squid ink and fish. It was all gone. Every single bit of it. And why was it all gone, you may ask? Well, I would like to blame it on my incredibly laggy, rather large boat, but unfortunately it's not my boat's fault. I encountered a bug. That's right, peeps. Typical FoxyNoTail style. I am the only one on the server that has suffered from this. I cannot replicate it on anyone else's systems, but for some reason on my system, when my boat transports items from my tree farm to here, or even the shopping area where my shop is that sells the Prismarine stuff, and the chunks are not loaded by a player, when the ship arrives at its destination, i.e. here, or the shopping area, all of a sudden all of the cargo on board, i.e. the packages containing the logs in the Prismarine, vanish. They don't spill out, they don't pop out, they're just no longer in the boat. As a result, Mr. Beardstone and I spent a good 3 hours trying to troubleshoot this and figure out what was going on. We even completely removed my boat, built a little temporary boat in order to try and set up the system to see if that would work, which it didn't. We even removed the post boxes and used some portable storage interfaces to see if that would work. But no matter what we did, including force loading all of the chunks that the boat was in, using both commands or power loaders, the items vanished every single time without fail, unless there was a player there to load the chunks where it was offloading. Which is bananas! Bananas, I tell you. Many, many, many bananas. So yeah, after all that hard work of all that AFK and all that hard work of setting up these transport networks to get my items where I want them to go, as soon as I log out, everything goes. It just disappears. However, I then came up with a solution that worked. What I did was, instead of using power loaders at my base and over at the shopping area in order to load those chunks, I threw a power loader actually onto my boat. Yes, you can do that. If you put a power loader onto a boat or contraption, it will load the chunks wherever it goes. And we've got one right here next to my little drivery fellow. And it worked twice while I was offline. And then deleted all of my items all over again for no reason. So of course at that point I reached out to the Create mod developers to try and find out what the issue was, to which my response was, yes, that can happen, which is not ever so useful. Apparently there are bug reports for it, but as far as I'm aware, it hasn't been fixed. And that leaves me with a big problem, a huge problem in terms of transporting all of my items from here to my base, a huge problem in actually restocking my shops over at spawn because I can't get the items there unless I'm going to go with the boat every time it goes, and even worse than that, it throws a spanner in the works of the transport system I had in mind for taking items around my huge base area using a monorail to pick up items from each of my factories and take them over to storage. I just don't trust that that's going to work. As I've said, peeps, none of the other players on the server have encountered problems like this, and Mr. Beardstone and I went through it for hours trying to figure out an actual solution and came to the conclusion it must just be me, which is not impossible. It could be a user thing, it could be an ID thing, who knows what the problem is. All I know know is that we need a new solution that doesn't involve trains and boats and things like that. And I've been racking my brains over the last few weeks while I've had some time off trying to think of how we're going to do that. And I haven't really come up with anything substantial. But good news, peeps! During that time, I have had chance to be AFK again. And as a result of that, I now have restocked everything. Everything has been running, which means I have a ridiculous amount of all of the things we need. So we have wood and prismarine things for days. We just know where to put them or take them. I can't take them anywhere, which is a problem. Speaking of problems, obviously you guys in the comments are cleverer than me, and there are a few things that you mentioned that while I was building this tree farm that I've now seen the comments of that I probably should have implemented. One of those things being, instead of chopping the bamboo down all the way down and then using deployers to replant it, if I just chop it off at the actual second layer like this, I don't need any deployers to replant it because it's just not going to actually unplant anything. It's just going to chop off the second layer. So that's one smart thing you guys came up with. And the other smart thing you guys came up with was how I could have done all of the lines and circles on my tree farm, which took me forever. Of course, I could have just set up a contraption from the center of the farm with a little valve handle on it and just adjusted that valve handle to the degrees I needed for my angles and lines and followed that with blocks. That would have been way easier and way smarter. But I didn't think about that. I stupid. But today, peeps, I'm not going to be stupid. Today, I am going to come up with a foolproof, non-buggy system to get my items out of here and actually over to the storage system in my underground base, which is what we're going to be building next. And I can finally build that because we've got all of the wood and all of the iron I'm ever going to need in order to make all of those vaults. Let's do this. How hard could it be? What could possibly go wrong? So vaults then, we're going to need a lot of them. So I need to get some systems automated temporarily in order to make them, and that's going to revolve around this that I already had set up for making barrels. The problem with this though is I have no wood in the system, even though we've got all of that wood outside, which means I now need to connect that wood outside into the storage system so that it can use it to make the barrels. Fortunately for me, we've already got a whole bunch of chain conveyors and things set up out here, so let's just add some more, I guess. Let's just, I guess, throw one on there and link that to there. Next, we need to stick a packager on there and then just stick a frog on top of that. But of course, then we need to link this to our storage system. So let's just come over to where we've already got a stock link. We've got one there. Link this stock link to that stock link and then just stick that on there. I'm also going to set this frog to only send packages so it doesn't put anything back in there. And now if we go back inside, we can see it's already sending packages through into the system. We need to make sure that we're picking a wood type that we've got plenty of in there so we can make plenty of barrels. So what have we got? We've got mostly stripped dark oak logs in there, so that's what I'm going to use. And there we go. After switching everything out to dark oak from birch, we're now making barrels on the auto crafter nice and easily. They're all coming through lovely. So now what I need to do is start making the vaults. And for that, we need iron sheet. We already have a system in place to make iron sheet, although I turn it off because it turns all of my iron into iron sheet if I turn it on, which is stupid. But for the sake of today, we're going to need to do that anyway. So let's just set that to say we always want 9 stacks of iron sheet. That should then start sending iron out over to our iron press, which it is doing. They're already getting pressed. That's good. And that means we just need a factory gauge down here with a vault in it. We're going to link that vault to the barrels. We're going to link that vault to the iron sheet. And then we can go to mechanical crafting, set that to FNT craft, and then we're going to say we want 9 stacks of that as well. And what I've got to do now is make sure we got plenty of iron in the system. So of course that means we need to pop over to the iron farm that we've got over here and start requesting iron from here. And I'm going to do this temporarily so I don't have to muck about with frogs and trains and whatnot. I do need to go and link up my chain to this chain conveyor over here. Let's just get you on there. And we'll stick another one, let's say here temporarily. Yes, that can connect. I guess let's stick a packager on there. Can we connect to there temporarily? It's a bit cheesy, but I think it'll work. We can. Only send packages, and then I need to make sure that this stock link is actually linked to that network. And I saw you, creeper, out of the corner of my eye. Don't you be interfering with my stuff. So now if I put that stock link on there, it will be able to drag all of the different types of iron out of this vault and then take them over to our storage system when it needs them, rather than pulling them out of our storage in here. So that means we no longer need this making any stacks of stuff. We can pull it straight out of the iron farm over there, and now we can make all of the things we need. Send over your iron sheet. In order to process our vaults a little bit quicker, what I'm going to do is add in a second auto crafter. We've already got this one here, which is making the barrels. And if I ask that to make vaults as well, it's just going to all get backed up and very confused. So what I'm going to do is add a temporary one in over here. And we're going to start off by placing down the crafters like this. This one's going to output into a barrel, which needs a packager. That packager then needs a frog on top of there, which is on only send items. And then this one needs redstone power to actually send the items out. For that, we're going to use a redstone link with our little timing thing on there so that it's not sending out every single item it makes, just some of them. And now that means I can't get my power over to it, which I put in place. So let's just move this across one by one block and just move this bit of chain drive across here like that, and then stick that on there, and there we go. That's all powered. Our mechanical crafters are ready to go. But of course, we've got to get the items in there. In order to do that, we're going to stick a packager at the very bottom, but we can't have packages going directly in there. They need to be repackaged first because they come out of the system in different packages, which means they need combining. In order to do that, we're going to stick a chute on top of that. We're going to put a temporary block on top of that with a barrel on top of that, remove the temporary block, stick a repackager facing up into that barrel, and then all we need to do is stick a frog directly onto that barrel. So it puts the frogs directly into the barrel. They will then get repackaged, and then the repackaged packages will go into there and into there. We're going to need to power the repackager, and we're going to need to give this frog a name. We're just going to call it FNT Craft 2. But in order to make it all work, I need to remember to link all of the crafter bits behind the back. Otherwise, this packager won't put items in there, which means if I flick that, that's going to start taking things out of there. And there we go. Now we are making vaults. Wonderful. And just a short while later, we now have 4 stacks of vaults, which is nowhere near enough. But it's a good start. And while this is going, I can start thinking about exactly how I'm going to be laying out that storage system. So let's go and take a whole bunch of vaults. So back under the mountain, we have a level dedicated for storage. And this level is also going to have these little transport networks in place in order to take items from the storage system to the factories we're going to have around the outside of the mountain that can process things and bring them back to storage. And there's a few things we need to figure out. First of all, we need to make sure that when we build these things, they don't all break like my boat did and start deleting the items. And that's going to be tricky in itself. But the things we need to really think about is how we're going to get the packages like through floors and things without it just literally going through the floor, but more importantly, how I'm going to lay out the vaults. See, I want this to be an organized storage system. I don't just want tons and tons of vaults with all of the different items in. I want each one of these sections to have vaults of different types. So this one might be wood, this one might be stone, that one could be other things, and so on and so forth. And yes, I'm sure we'll have a storage area that is just total junk that just doesn't go with anything else, but I want to try and keep as much of it as possible as separated as possible. And in order to make organizing this a little bit easier, I brought myself a clipboard and some signs, and this clipboard basically lists all of the different sections of things that I think I need. I'm going to need an entire section just for logs and strip logs, another one for all of the wooden things like planks and slabs. We're going to need one for the basic stone types. We're going to need one for all of the other basic stone types like slabs and stairs, and then mob drops. So a whole bunch of things. And now I've gone around this entire area with all of these signs designating each one of the chunks to what it's going to have in it. And I think we've got just enough chunks if we do every single outside chunk and the 4 corners of the inside chunk. So as you can see on the wall here, we've got wood 1, wood 2, going all the way down to the stones, and then going all the way across there and all the way across there. And then in the middle, we're going to have all of the random sort of junk and mob drops. And that should work out okay. But now we've got to squeeze a whole bunch of vaults into each one of these sections so that we've actually got plenty of storage for each one of the item types. So we might as well start over at the wood section over here and see how many vaults we can fit in here. And not just how many we can fit in, but we've also got to make sure we've got a system in place to deliver the right items to the right vault so we can, oh geez, we're going to need a lot of frogs and packages. And here we go. Something like this I think is exactly what we're going to need. So we've basically got 6 big old vaults in there. I've added chain drive all the way around the room, all the way into the corners. And of course we've got some conveyors on the front, because what we need to do is send our packages into this one. So this is FNT Store Wood 1. They're going to go into that vault. Then they're going to come out of this vault, come along this conveyor here. They're going to go down here where there's a little chute from this vault into that one. Then they're going to come across here and into that one. So they'll start filling up from this point all the way back up to there. And that means we can make use of all of the vaults nice and compactly. And obviously each one of them needs a frog on so that we can get the items out. So these frogs are not named. These are just on only send packages. And that's the same for all of them except for our input frog. And by doing that, we've got a nice little storage system. Now, I could technically probably squeeze another 3 volts on top of this, but realistically, I think 6 volts for each of these sections is going to be more than enough, because I've earmarked 20 sections for all of this storage, and that means we're going to need 120 full-size volts. That's absolutely ridiculous, but there we go. This is how we play Minecraft. So now what I've got to do is replicate this system into each of the empty spaces that we've got, and that's going to take an awful lot of time to do by hand. So I think the schematic cannon is going to be my friend. The question is, though, have we got enough volts? So each full-size vault is 9 blocks long, and it takes 9 volts to make the big front bit. So that should mean each vault takes 81 volts. If that makes any sense at all. It doesn't really make a great deal of sense, does it? But let's find out. Yes, it does. 81 volts to make 1 full-size vault, and we need 120 full-size vaults, so we need 9,720 individual vault blocks in order to make all of the vaults I need. That works out at just under 152 stacks of vault blocks. And going over to check on our little system, we have 30 stacks. Morning. What the hell do you think you're doing? I say, sir. You're not allowed in my base. This is not for wandering traders, sir. Don't you be making my base all laggy, mate. Jeez. Right, anyway, in order for me to move on to the next stage, while all those vaults are still crafting, I'm going to take a schematic of the existing setup we've got, so that all I've got to then do is basically blast that into existence 19 more times into all of the other chunk spaces that they're going to be in. And then I'm going to need 19 shulker boxes worth of all of the items for each one of those things in order to then... Oh my goodness, this is going to be a nightmare. Right, okay, I'll go get my schematic stuff. And then, oh jeez, oh jeez, oh dear. And I've crashed. No, I haven't crashed. Hey. Oh jeez, this was a bad time for it to freeze. Oh, now I'm here again. Maybe I have crashed. Ow. Ow. So first things first, we should take a schematic of these things. And there we go. I think that's everything we need inside of this. The chain drive will probably be different on the other ones, but we'll add it in anyway. And now I just need 19 more of those. It's shulker box filling time. Oh, jeez, the lag for some reason. It's because of all the volts. No, it's not. The volts are not laggy, mate. They're really laggy. No. It's the Wandering Trader's fault. Because he's here, because he exists. So back at the workshop, I've got 18 shulker boxes down here and another one just here underneath this schematic cannon, which has the schematic in it that I just took. And behind that, there is a packager with a frog on it called FNT cannon. I've got myself a little stock link set up down here. So all I need to do is get my clipboard, figure out what items I need from there, make sure that that's actually printed the list okay, then click on this fellow. He's going to send it to FNT cannon. That's all going to end up inside there, and then once that's actually gone in there, I can double check that it's got everything it needs, and it looks like it's got most of it, so let's just check by sticking the material checklist back in, see if there's anything else we need. There is not, so that one is done. Let's put this out of the way somewhere, shove it there for now, and then we can shove the next one of those into there, put the checklist back in so it's all nice and empty again, click on this chap here, send all of that over to there, and I've just got to do this a bunch more times. Well, this thing has been going for a while, and so far I've managed to amass 11 shulker boxes worth of all of the items we need, but the shortage is definitely the iron vaults, which are just not crafting quick enough. I also completely ran out of iron sheet, so I'm now pressing a bunch of that to make some more just to speed this up a bit. And we're getting there on this next barrel. Shulker box. Yes, shulker box. That's what I said, the shulker box. But there's a couple of things I need to do while this is running, because I've just about run out of rockets. I've got absolutely no sugar cane at all, and I could really do with buying a couple of bits. So I'm going to go shopping. The problem with that is I've hardly got any diamonds at all, 38. But fortunately for me, I've got a shop. Let's go and see if anyone's actually done any shopping at my shop. And here we are over at my little shop of fish with Keith the shopkeeper. How many diamonds do you have? 82! That'll do. So how's my stock looking then? If he's got that much, we don't know how much is in those because it's not loaded at the moment, but it looks like we've still got plenty. Oh, we've got no bone blocks. Excellent. Good. Right. In that case, I can definitely go shopping. And I'm going to start at the fireworks shop, which I think is this one with the TNT outside. Now, 6 for 576. Does that mean there's no stock? Out of stock? Out of stock? There's no one stocking the fireworks shop? This is no good. Let's go see if there's any in the train station still. Because they used to sell stuff here. You've got no stock. Out of stock. But this just won't do. Oh, the other thing I needed was redstone. Let's hope Mr. Beardstone's actually keeping his shop. Oh, wow, look at this. The mini golf system is coming on quite nicely. So I'm looking forward to seeing that soon. But before we do that, we're going to go to the redstone shop and buy a bunch of redstone. 1 diamond for 64 there, or 5 diamonds for 512 there. 50 diamonds worth. That'll do. Cow, take my diamonds. Here we go. That's the last package. And wow, we got 3 full shulker boxes for that. That's, oh, nearly 3 full shulker boxes for 50 diamonds. That'll do me nicely. Thank you very much, Mr. Beardstone. And speaking of Mr. Beardstone, I should probably go and see him about those rockets. Find out why there's no stock, because it's half his shop, I believe. But before we do that, I'm just going to hop over here for a second because there's something I need to do. Well, that's weird. I just sort of flew by here, accidentally touched the ground, and then all of a sudden my pockets were full of sugar. I don't know how it happened. Something weird going by. I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to leave before I cause any more problems. Mr. Beardstone! Mr. Beardstone! Mr. Beardstone! Mr. Beardstone! Mr. Beardstone! Mr. Beardstone! Mr. Beardstone!
What are you two doing here?
Ah, well, you see, I need both of you because you two are completely useless.
I mean, coming from you, Foxy, that's a little bit.
I thought we settled in court that you were. Your lawyer made it clear.
Well, okay. Well, why have I only got 25 rockets and you are short on diamonds, my friends? Because your rocket shops are completely out of stock.
Ah, it's not my rocket shop. That's nothing to do with me. I just take my rockets directly from the factory. No, I don't.
Oh.
No.
Oh, so you're completely useless.
Yeah. Yeah, I just steal my rockets direct from the factory.
Well, go and stock your shop and you might earn some money. And I don't know. I'll give you all your sugarcane I stole back. Right, Miss Beardstone.
Yeah, before you get to that, Foxy, stock your shop. You're out of bone blocks.
Yeah, well, I can't stock it because I can't get anything to spawn because it just vanishes. You know this. You were there. We spent 3 hours on it. We didn't fix it.
Oh, that whole thing is still a thing?
Yes. Yeah.
You got to manually restock it then, Foxy.
I am indeed. Yes. But before we get to that, Mr. Beardstone, have you seen what happens if you put a bit of cardboard in some water?
I have. Foxy, come here. Look.
Oh, no, look. Oh,
yes.
Jeez. Your putters have all got wet, Mr. Beardstone.
They have. No, honestly, thank you so much for doing that mod. I was playing around with it while you were on holiday. I built this wonderful shop, which will eventually sell them. But there's also a driving range, so you can try them all out.
Oh, fancy. Do you want to just let me have a quick go?
Oh, yeah, on the driving range, you can do whatever you want. That's fine, yeah.
So can I just take one out of there? So, for those of you that don't know, Mr. Beardstone's making a mini golf game, but unfortunately, due to the fact that the putters that he's using, which are these cardboard swords, use knockback. Basically, they have them hard coded in. The shortest you can make your ball go is, hang on a minute.
You did it again.
Is that far? Which is too far for a mini golf game, isn't it, Miss Beardstone?
That's way too far for a putter, yes.
So, being the kind friend that I am, I made Mr. Beardstone a little bit of a mod so that he can get his cardboard swords wet, and as a result, they don't go quite as far. That one goes half the distance, and then if I get another ball, then and I use the little one, the putter, this one goes half the distance again.
Oh, it's so cute.
Yeah, then that means you can just sort of make your shots like actually go where you want them to go, which is fantastic, really.
It is, and it's very helpful, especially on the last couple of holes I've just built. They're a bit tighter. So, yeah, but I'm going to have it, Foxy. So people they can only take 3 clubs into the game.
Brilliant.
So, yeah. So, there's a bit of strategy to it, depending if you're doing like a friendly game or if you're doing a speed run. You got options, Foxy. Options.
Yeah, I like it. That's fantastic. Yeah. It's going to be It's going to be great. And for anybody complaining that this is just create and we shouldn't be fiddling with things right in our own, there is no gameplay advantage to adding in a putter. Absolutely no gameplay advantage at all, because all they're used for is whacking people.
A wet cardboard tube. I asked people, I said, Foxy's made a thing that can make them hit less. What do you reckon? And it was a resounding yes, put it in the thing. It doesn't affect any of the game apart from mini golf. So
Exactly.
everyone was a resounding yes.
Wonderful. Now, if we can add teleporters in so that I can move my items to spawn without them being deleted, that would be really handy, Miss Beardzone. It won't break the game. It doesn't add any gameplay advantage. It'd be really... what am I supposed to do? I can't stock shops.
Honestly, I don't understand why your system doesn't work. I mean, I'm using the system stand built, which, just to say, is exactly the same as what you're doing, and it works fine.
The only difference is mine's underwater. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe minecart chests, but then they won't load chunks. So they'll just stop.
I honestly don't understand, Foxy. You're just going to have to, like, stock your shops the old-fashioned way.
Which would be handy if I was allowed a backpack, Mr. Beardstone. Well, now that we've got that all out of the way, I'm going to get that redstone plumbed into my system so that I can actually make things that require redstone. And then what I'm going to do is turn all of this sugarcane into paper. And then what I'm going to do is do a bit of testing. And now we've got 7 stacks worth of vaults while we were doing that, which is handy. So now I should be able to get the rest of this shulker box filled up. Let's send those. And yes, testing. So here we are on a creative download of the world where I'm going to be doing a bit of testing. I want to test how we can get items from my tree and prismarine farm over to my base, and more importantly the spawn area, so that I can actually sell them. So what I've done is I've moved my boat out the way, created a very small temporary boat with a very basic schedule, basically saying stay at the Guardian farm unless you've got packages, in which case go and deliver those packages. Very simple. It's got a barrel on there so I can see what's in it. It's also got a portable storage interface on it so that I can test whether that will work instead of the post boxes. On here I've got a redstone requester ready to actually send 64 pale oak logs from the tree farm over to my base, and we've got a couple of little stock tickers here so we can see what's going on. This one shows me the contents of what's here at the tree farm, and this one shows me the contents of what's over at the dock just over there. I've also got these set up to show me at a glance what's at the tree farm in terms of pale oak. We've got 1004 stacks of it and absolutely none at the dock at all. So if I give this a flick, that should send a package of pale oak down through this system, and eventually the package should make its way into that post box. This boat should pick it up and we should be able to see it on that boat go all the way over to the dock. But there we go. It now should be on the boat. It is. The boat is going. It should be relatively close to the station. We should see it pop off into here. And there we go. We now have a stack of pale oak logs in here. Or do we? Yes, we do. So let's see what happens this time if I do it again, but I don't load the area. So I'm going to request that. And now I'm going to go into spectator mode and run away to unload those chunks. The simulation distance I've got set on here is just 5 chunks. So if I go over to here where I can no longer see my base, I shouldn't be loading anything at all. So I went and made a cup of tea, and now I've come back, and let's see if it's actually managed to deliver those items. If we hop down here, we should see there are 1002 in there, and still only 1 stack in that one. So no, it didn't deliver them. We should have 2 stacks over there. Let's check to see if they're in here. They are not. So yes, as per my previous tests, even on the single player world, my packages get deleted if I'm not loading the area. The next thing I want to do to make my life significantly simpler is to break my way into where the station is here, and I'm going to pop down a command block and a comparator to basically tell me when the train's arrived at my base. And providing these chunks are loaded when the train gets here, that should trigger in the chat, which means I don't have to wait for hours to see if the boat has actually arrived where it needs to go. So let's make sure this chunk, where that is force loaded. There we go. That is now force loaded. That should work. I'm going to do exactly the same thing over at the Guardian farm. Put that there, pop that there. Train at Guardian farm. So if I break that and place it again in the chat, you can see it says train at Guardian farm. Good, that worked. And just for the sake of completeness, I'm going to do that test again to see if it makes any difference now that I've force loaded the station area on that one. So I'm going to flick that lever, run away, unload those chunks, and now hopefully I will get a message in the chat when the train has got to where it needs to go. And there you go. As you can see, the train has successfully made it to my base and back to the Guardian farm. So let's see if it's actually delivered anything. Just 1 stack still. Let's go and see if there's anything on the boat. There is not. Let's go see if there's anything in the mailbox. There is not. Is there anything in this barrel here? There is not. Speaking of this barrel, I actually want to connect this to the little stock network over here because that's the test we're going to do next. Stick that on there and that on there, and now that's linked to that. So if I put a piece of stone in there, that should now show when I look at that. It does. Excellent. Before we try using the portable storage interfaces, however, the next thing I want to try is putting a power loader onto the boat, because that worked briefly on my other one, so perhaps it'll work again here. Stick that in there. That should work absolutely fine. Reassemble the train. You can see that's glowing, so it's working. Give him his schedule back, and we're going to do exactly the same thing again. Request an item, fly away, and just wait for the chat to come up. And there we go. It's done the loop again. Let's go and see what's happened. Do we have any more items over at my base? Oh, this time we do. So that actually worked. But will it work consistently? Because it didn't. We're going to set a timer to go every couple of minutes, plumb that into there, and now it's going to request those items every couple of minutes, which is exactly the same system as I had set up previously. So first of all, what I'm going to do is empty out the storage over here to get rid of those pale oak logs by letting it all go out through those chutes. There should be nothing in there again now, apart from that stone which is in that barrel. So now all I'm going to do is just leave it going for a little while and see how many stacks we end up with there. And just so we know, there are 1,000 stacks in there, so however many is gone from there, we should expect to see in there. Simple. And a few minutes later, I can see that it's done at least 10 trips in the chat. So let's find out exactly how many has been delivered. We've got 10. So with the power loader, it seems to work. But I did have this set up previously, which is why there's a power loader on there, but it still managed to delete all of my items when it was doing it. So I don't trust that this is going to be consistent, even though the tests prove it is. So how about that portable storage interface then? What if we take the power loader back off there and try that and see what happens? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do. In order to make sure the train doesn't just keep doing loops around and around and around, we need to alter the schedule to say, go to the Guardian farm, don't go unless there is at least one package on there, and then go to my base and then come back again. So that should work. Obviously, this portable storage interface is also going to need force loading, but it is within the same chunk as the train station, so that shouldn't be a problem. There are 988 pieces of pale oak wood in the system. There are none over there, so what I'm going to do is manually flick that, do the old run away, and then wait for the stuff in the chat again. Oh, jeez. And for some reason, even with that schedule, it's gone round and round and round again, so something strange is going on. I'm not entirely sure what that is. We've only actually sent one stack from this system, which should be one package, so we should only have one package over here unless it didn't connect and didn't get to drop it off. No, nothing in there at all. But yet the package is still on the train. It hasn't actually been dropped off. That's a bit weird. So I guess I should probably follow it to see what happens, because I'm assuming the portable storage interface is not going to line up with the one over there, which is why it's not been dropped off. At least it hasn't been deleted, so that's the good thing. And let's see. No, they do line up. And it's now been delivered. So even with the chunk force loaded, it won't deliver the package unless a player is present. That's not ideal. But what if we put the power loader back on? Cue the next test. Power loader in, train assembled, schedule back, empty destination, check stock, request items, fly away. And there's only been one loop this time, so that should mean it's successfully actually managed to drop it off over at the dock area. Let's go and find out. Yes, it has. So with the power loader on the train, it can use a portable storage interface to unload it, even though that chunk is force loaded. That's weird. Why do force loaded chunks not actually seem to force load the chunks? Right, anyway. At this point now, these are all the tests that Mr. Beardstone and I did together. We spent 3 hours doing exactly the same thing as we're doing now, but not only sending it over to the dock area, but to spawn as well. And we thought we'd solved it in exactly the same way, by throwing a power loader onto the boat, which does seem to work, but it didn't. Because I went away for a couple of days, all of the stuff that I'd AFK'd for had vanished. It wasn't here, it wasn't at spawn, it wasn't in my dock. And not just the trees either, the Prismarine too. So I still, even after this testing and the testing I did with Mr. Beardstone, don't trust it at all. So I want an alternative method, and that's really why I came here. The testing I've just done was just to prove to you what I'd do. Oh geez. Anyway, yeah, alternative methods of getting items from here to there. Let's try something else. So in my mind, there are 3 different ways we could do this. Of course, we've got the very vanilla way of using a chest minecart with a loader here. If I put some items into there, they're going to get loaded into that. Once it's finished loading, it's going to set off, come over here and unload it all, and then this little system here will send it back again once it's empty. Very vanilla, doesn't rely on any contraptions, but my worry with this is it won't be able to travel through unloaded chunks. The minecart's just going to stop as soon as it reaches an unloaded chunk, which means it's only going to travel if those chunks are loaded, which is probably fine between the tree farm and my base while I'm online, but it's certainly not going to get all the way from here over to the shopping area. The second way of doing things is certainly a lot newer, and that is to use just chain conveyors with packages on. We've already got infrastructure at each end to load them on and unload them, so that shouldn't be a problem, but again, I'm worried that they're not going to make it through unloaded chunks, which then takes me back to basically a train, but instead of having an actual train with stations and post boxes and train track, using a minecart rail and a contraption. This, I think, should work a little bit better, although we all know that contraptions do have issues in unloaded chunks. I mean, just check out my carrot farm, just stopping every time I turn my back because it can't figure out how to use rail properly. But I'm hoping that something like this might be a little bit more reliable than an actual train, and we should be able to make this go through unloaded chunks by throwing a chunk loader on it instead. So basically my tests for now are, can packages make it through unloaded chunks? Because Mr. Beardstone's power station uses chain conveyors all over the world to transfer power, and if that won't work, will this be reliable enough to make it there and back again? Obviously, I'm really rooting for the chain conveyor here because that's going to be a lot easier to build infrastructure between here and the spawn area than laying down an absolute ton of powered rail. So there we go. We've got some chain conveyor connecting that area over to this area here. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is test it while I'm actually here. So let's just request some items, and here they come, winging their way across here. And if we follow those, we can see they're going to make it all the way over here, no problems at all, up the final bit, into the frog, and we have delivered that package, which means we now should have 64 payload logs in the system. But can it do it if I'm not there? First of all, I'm going to unload all of the force loaded chunks. There is a power loader over here, and there's a power loader over there. And now I'm going to request those items, do the old run away, and see if it actually gets there. Any marks, get set, go. Run away. Okay, it's been a couple of minutes. Let's go back and see if it has been delivered. I can't see it on the chain drive anywhere, so that's probably a good sign. But are there 2 stacks in here? Now there are. So that went without me being anywhere near it. Okay, this time I'm going to send a bunch, but there's something else I want to do first, and that is to put a little system in here to turn this off and on again. I'm going to put a clutch in there with a redstone link on there in receive mode, and we'll just give that 2 packages for now. That shouldn't be a problem at all. And then we're going to go over to where we run away to. In fact, we'll go all the way over here, pop a redstone link down here with those on there, pop a lever on there and lock that, force load this chunk here, put it there instead so it's in the middle of this force loaded chunk, lock that, stick the packages on there. So now if I fly back from here over to there, the clutch should be locked and that should stop the chain conveyor, which yes, it has. Now what we need to do is request a bunch of items, fly back over there, unlock this, wait a couple of minutes and see if they've all been delivered. A couple of minutes has now passed. Let's lock that again. Let's fly back over there and see if they're all still on the chain conveyor or if they've actually been delivered. It doesn't look like there's anything on here. Are there loads of items in here now? There are. We've got a whole bunch. It worked. Brilliant. Okay, so we've got a nice, easy way of transporting items around without them being deleted by a boat. But there is one more thing, one very last test that I want to try. And that test is simply, was the issue I had with my system before because my track was underwater. So I've added in a track above the water all the way over there. I've added in 2 new post boxes, 2 new stations, so everything should work as before. So I've disconnected the chain drive. I'm emptying out this system here. So yeah, there's nothing in there at all. I'm going to remove all of the force loaded chunks, and now all I got to do is request an item, and hopefully we'll see that come down here, go into this post box and go on the train. There comes the package. That's going to go into that post box. It's already gone on the train. The train is leaving. There we go. It went in, which means in here, yes, we've got a stack of payload logs. But will it do it if I'm not there? Request an item, run away. Are there 2 stacks of items over here? There are. So is it really because my track was underwater? I'm doing it again. I don't believe it. There should be 3 stacks in here. Oh my goodness, it's done it again. What? I don't believe it. I do it again. Well, I've left it quite a while. It's done at least 10 trips. The commands are actually going off the chat now, so I'm expecting to see at least 13 stacks in here because there were 3 already. Let's check it out. There's over 1,000. What does that mean in terms of stacks? It's going to be easier to check on this thing over here. 17 stacks. It's worked perfectly. So all of my issues, all of this testing, a waste of time because the issue is it doesn't like being underwater. What? Miss Beardstone! Miss Beardstone! Miss Beardstone!
Yes, Foxy.
So I've been away from the world for a few hours doing a bit of testing in a single player copy of this world. And you know about the issues I was having with the items getting them to my base?
Yeah.
Well, I have found a solution.
No way.
Solution number 1 is you can use chain conveyors with just packages on, and they don't unload when they go out of unloaded chunks, so that's good.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, the reason why my track wasn't working is because it was underwater, Mr. Beardstone.
It is the water thing.
Yeah, I made a new track out of the water in single player, replicated the issues I was having with the underwater one as in the packages going missing, built one on the outside of the water, works perfectly.
Right, so it's something to do with boats.
No boats.
No boats, but I love boats.
No boats.
Oh, that's what you get for trying to do something different, Foxy.
Yeah.
You should have just built a train like everyone else.
Right. Just thought I'd let you know, Mr. B.
No, that's good to know. That is very good to know. I mean, I do really want to do boats, but I also can't be bothered to. No, well, I know that now, but I can't be bothered to dig out under the ocean to put the track in because we haven't got steam and rails. So that's why I've not done boats or flying things or any of the fun stuff.
Yeah. Stam!
Hi.
Quick! Don't build a boat.
Why? Yes, why don't build a boat?
Because that makes all of your items get deleted. I figured it out,
Oh.
Stam. The reason all my items would have been deleted
Is it because of the boat?
track was underwater.
What?
Yep. If the track is not underwater, they don't get deleted.
How is that?
No.
I mean, I know I'm doing a lot of river transformations, but I actually did not plan to make a boat.
Good. I was close. I saved your life. You're welcome. Well, have you got 3 rockets for me, have
I
you?
mean, you didn't... I don't have... What, you
Everyone?
didn't save my life, and...
I did! You could have lost
And I
everything,
don't- and I-
Stam. You could have parceled up everything you had into a boat and sent it off somewhere and lost it, and now you know not to do that because of me. So I've saved everything you've ever done in Minecraft. You're welcome. Can I reward now, please?
I mean, you can... Yeah, your reward is the shop is stocked. You can head on over there and spend some diamonds.
Bye, Stam.
Bye.
And so finally, with a little bit of luck, this should be the very last one that is filling up, and that looks like it's done it all. Let's just check the material checklist. Yes, we now have 19 shulker boxes, all full of everything we need to make 19 of those storage system chunk things. Amazing! Now I just got to spend another few hours schematic cannoning them all into place. So of course I've got my cannon, my table, my gunpowder and my schematic. Now all I need is all of these shulker boxes and a big old time lapse. There's something wrong with schematic cannons. I expected to have to replace the frogs to get them connected to the chain drive, but I didn't expect all of the vaults to be placed wrong, half of the vault blocks to be missing, and also the belt to be missing as well. And it hasn't got anything left in the shulker box, which is weird. Lo and behold, it did it again. Missing a load of blocks, placing in the vaults all wrong, and not putting in the belts. So this time I'm going to get rid of a bunch of things, make a new schematic of it without the 3 vaults next to each other like this, and then I'll just have to replace a whole bunch more on each one, and hopefully it won't keep deleting items. Stupid schematic cannons. go. We now have 120 full-size vaults all connected together, but they're not a storage network yet because I haven't added any display links and we haven't actually created one. So I brought a few bits and bobs with me, and just for now we're going to create a very temporary little storage system just here. Let's put a stock ticker down, connect all of these stock links that I've got to that, and now I need to put one of these stock links on every single packager that we've got, which there are 120 of. So this is going to take me a minute. And here we go, the last little section, just going in. Now every single vault is connected to our storage network, which should mean if I look at the storage network, we can see there is absolutely nothing in it because it's all empty. And that leads me to the next thing that we need to do. Because I want to designate each one of these little segments to its own type of block, I can't really just have a system that throws all of the items into this system willy-nilly and then just plonks the items anywhere. So we're going to need even more vaults. We're going to need an input system setting up in one of these chunks that can then take all of the items that are generated elsewhere or from the workshop we're going to have upstairs and then decide which one of these sections of vaults to send them to. And that's going to be relatively easy, but I'm going to need a lot of filters. So first of all, let's get ourselves a brand new vault system set up. I've got plenty of spare vaults here, so that shouldn't be a problem. And I think this little section here should do for now, so I'm just going to plonk a big old vault in it. Just like that. Now, this vault technically doesn't need to be massive because it's not going to have to store a great deal of items, but it does need to be big enough to have a lot of belts coming off it. But it is going to need an input, so I'm going to chuck a couple of packages on here so we can input more than one package at a time. In fact, let's have 4 of them. Then I'm just going to connect these frogs over to this line here, just like that. And these are all just going to be called FNT storage. So any packages we send to FNT storage will get picked up by one of these frogs and shoved in here. Now we need to get them out of here and into the right one of those, which is just going to involve a few belts. And we're going to need 20 different belts coming off this, which means I've probably put this in completely... Yeah, this would be better off in the middle. I'm just going to be a minute. Oh, jeez. And there we go, we've now got our big old vault in the middle with the conveyors coming out of each side, which are then taking the items from there into these individual vaults down here. They're then going to go into these packages and these frogs are going to take them where they need to go. So all I've got to do now is put some addresses on each one of these packages to tell it where it wants to go. So to make life a little bit easier for me, I went round and clicked on all of my name frogs with this clipboard, allowing me to see a big long list of all of the different storage vaults we've got in here. And now I've gone round and put all of these signs on for the addresses on here with some wildcards just to make things a little bit cleaner and easier, meaning that we don't actually need 16 frogs on this to actually send things to 20 vaults. We only actually need 14. Because some of the things have multiple vaults, such as Storewood 1 and Storewood 2. We don't need 2 frogs to send to that, we just send them to Storewood and it'll go in either of them, making things nice and clean and tidy, which means I can get rid of these belts and those funnels. I've just got to get power to this now, which shouldn't be too difficult. And look at that, they're going in the right direction. That's very handy. Now I need to connect the ones on the other side, so I'm going to need some more chain drive. We'll just bring that down here, but this is going to need inverting. So let's just throw a gearbox in there, and now we've got all of those connected. So now we've got a fully working storage system, kind of. We still don't have an input system for this, i.e. somewhere to put items in to actually put them in here, and we don't have a workshop where everything's going to be processed. And of course, all of my items are still back at my main base area and I need them in here. But before I start putting anything into this input system, every single one of these funnels is going to need filters. So we're only taking the right item to the right place. And that's going to be a lot of work. Literally going through every item in the game to decide where it's going to go. It's going to take ages. Fortunately, however, I can cheat a little bit because I already spent a ridiculous amount of time previously doing something very similar. Oh, I'm stuck again. Oh, jeez. Come on, let me up. There we go. For my stock ticker here. It appears to have crashed. Oh, there we go. In this stock ticker here, I have a whole bunch of filters already set up, allowing me to basically make it so that when I click on this, everything's in nice categories. So I've done most of the work for myself already. I've just got to copy those filters, which is a lot easier than it looks. For example, if I want my gems and ingots, I can take that filter from there, grab a brand new filter and just pop that in there. Then I can pop this one back in there. Spend ages clicking the little move up arrow to put it back where it was in the first place because this thing has no memory, which is rather irritating. Eventually. Nearly there. Here we go. We're getting there. Just a few more rows to go. It doesn't take very long at all, really. I'll have this done in no time. There we go. And now I've got a filter with a filter in it, which is exactly what I need. So I've just got to do that 20 or 30 times. Oh, geez. I'll see you next time, peeps.
Mr. Fox.
Hello?
Hello?
Where are you?
Oh, there you are.
Hello?
Is your voice chat broken again, Foxy?
No. Is yours?
Nope. Nope.
Can I help?
Do you have gold?
Nope.